on the proper Facebook channel. I was before the show here, I was commenting on how everything seemed to be working correctly here, and well, it wasn't. I'm just confirming right now that we are live, and it appears that we are. So we're good. All right, Bender, let's get back at this. And why don't you read that disclaimer one more time, because we're going to need it.
Okay, the opinions expressed in this program are not necessarily those of Dive Right In Scuba, Double Action Dive Charters, B. Larson Metalworks, Fully Tech Marine, Fully Tech Charters, or Fully Tech Mechanical, Fathom Dive Systems. All names, even those that sound like real people, are purely fictional and coincidental. There may be some colorful language tonight, so it's time to send the kids off to bed, unless, of course, you're in California, in which case you're a shitty parent and your kids aren't going to turn out anyways. Bob, what are you drinking tonight?
Well, I am drinking a brew from Revolution Brewing, local brewery here in Chicago. It's called their Apollo Hero. It's a hazy IPA, very delicious. How about you? What are you out to fucking sea or something right now? What are you drinking?
Well, it kind of works out. It falls into the with the beer. I'm drinking a New England IPA from Lake of Bays Brewing Company. It's a super hoppy IPA, so I can drive around in my Prius and grow a man bun and just be a pretentious fucking asshole that thinks he knows what good beer tastes like, but it'll get you drunk. We'll get into this in a minute, but I'd really like to know what Charlie's drinking tonight.
Figured out. Modelo.
So good.
Negra Modelo.
So good. You know, there's not a place in the world where that would taste better than sitting in the slough at Ginny after what we consider a big, what guys like Bob or I would consider a big cave dive, but that's just a rinky-dink fucking bunny hill for you guys. But
I thought you were going to say like hanging out in Tulum or something after a cave dive. Maybe eating ceviche on the beach.
Nice.
Drinking a Negra Modelo.
So Canada, Health Canada has issued some new directives. Masks are out. We have the highest COVID cases per capita in the free world, so masks are out, and we've all been instructed to wear life jackets. And so far, I've been COVID free, so we're going to give this a try, see how it works out.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. I'm glad you're trying to stay safe. I'm really happy to hear that there. So how are things up there in Canada?
Oh, fucked. They're fucked. Thanks for asking.
Yeah. Charlie, how about Florida? How's things down there?
I don't think it's that bad. You look at the maps and everything, and it looks terrible, but I think it's gotten a lot better. I think a lot of people are vaccinated, so that's helping. Right. Gotta help.
Yeah.
Still not dead.
I'm not dead. And I don't have COVID, so.
Nobody wants the Wuhan flu. Oh wait, apparently I'm not supposed to say that. That's bad.
So I guess we'll start with a little apology. We missed 2 weeks worth of shows for two reasons. One, it's a bitch to try to secure guests. As the show becomes more popular and potential guests see it, suddenly their keenness to come on the show gets to be less and less. So it is becoming a struggle. Public shaming certainly helps, but we've had a little bit of a wild ride here the last couple of weeks. Yesterday was my first day out of COVID jail. I did a 14-day quarantine after somebody exposed themselves to me. I mean, I was exposed to somebody with COVID. So that's a lot of fun, trying to work in a locked shop and fucking you're using a stick to open the door, and people are fucked. Like, they'll pound on the door to the building because you won't because they can't read it. Clearly can't read the fucking sign. But I did come to learn something certainly in our area. If you're exposed to someone who is in quarantine or has been or has COVID, you have to do a 14-day quarantine. So it's actually a powerful tool. So if someone wants to be a dick, you could literally just open the door and be like, "Hey, what's your name? Okay, what's your phone number? Okay, good talk. Have a nice day." And then you call Lambton Public Health, and they'll call them, And they get to spend 14 days in their fucking mother's basement doing a fucking quarantine. It's marvelous.
So
it's a good time.
My question is, how many people did you do that to? Because I know there was more than one.
Oh, like 6 or 7 at least. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was driving. I was driving around. It was.
Well, that's good. I'm glad to hear.
It's quite satisfying. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Well,
we got
that's
Charlie
good.
Roberson on. We talked to him about coming on the show a while ago, and finally just sort of were able to line up the schedule. And some of you guys know who Charlie is. Some of you guys don't. Charlie is the CEO and principal of Fathom Dive Systems, which produces a pretty cool CCR unit. He's also doing some pretty kick-ass, low-key but kick-ass cave exploration. They kind of just keep their head down and do their thing, and don't tell anybody about it. It's really remarkable. So thanks for coming on the show. I apologize. It's probably ruined our friendship after this, but thanks for coming on. So
You finally you caught me in a weak moment.
So what are you doing? What do you got on the go right now, Charlie?
Sorry?
What do you got on the go right now? What's the hot thing going on in Florida, or projects you're working on? New
the name of the game right now is equipment, repair the equipment, get everything ready so that when everything clears, we're ready to go. Because everything is crappy right now. It was starting to clear, and then there was a bunch of rain that hit southern Georgia, and everything's flooded again. So I don't think this one's going to be a long flood like the last time. It came up really quickly, and it'll probably go down pretty quickly. But it means, a month or two of downtime. Before the show, I was telling Captain Bob that we've got 2 different problems. One is too much rain in southern Georgia, and that ultimately makes its way down the Swanee and the Withlacoochee rivers and floods the caves kind of in north central Florida. But in kind of a little further south, Weehee Wachee area, there's been a drought. And there's been a drought for about a year. And so we can't dive there because there's just not enough rain. Twin Dees, which is our access point to Weehee Wachee, looks like a cesspool right now. Like you wouldn't want to get in it. It looks terrible. And it's not because it's a flooding, it's because of not enough rain.
Wow.
So we're kind of caught in the middle. Usually we have somewhere to dive, with the exception of Jenny and, Manatee. Manatee's diveable. But even still, Manatee's not that great. The flow's pretty high, which means the visibility is pretty crappy. It's diveable, but it's not fun.
Yeah.
Shitty.
That's the way she goes, huh?
We've got a question from Terry Irvine.
Yeah,
He'd like you to
let me pull that up. Let's see. I fucking got it right there.
Hey,
T-Man wants
Big
to
T.
know how the Fathom Rebreather came into being.
I got to the point where I wanted to start diving rebreathers, and so I did. I became certified and started diving a Meg, in fact, and I did a Meg for a while, and I liked a lot of things about it, and there were some things I wanted to change. So it started off as a small project that I was just gonna make a few changes, maybe change the head, turn it into an MCCR, and the project grew into a whole rebreather. I realized pretty quickly that if I was just going to make modifications, that I was going to have to accept some of the design choices that Leon had made, and not that they were wrong or bad, but those choices had already been made, and I wanted to do something different. So it really evolved into and grew into a full rebreather project so that I could make the design decisions that I wanted to make. I was doing some big dives on the Meg. I was diving Cathedral. We were going out to, doing exploration dives on it, which at the time we were in the 20,000 foot range. And, one thing about an ECCR that really kind of started to trouble me is that they just work so damn well. People laugh and say, well, how's that a bad thing? But every time I looked at the handset, it was exactly what it was supposed to be. And I felt a little bit of complacency creeping in. I felt like I was going to start not monitoring it as well as I should. And so I sort of made a shift and decided that I wanted to dive an MCCR. And that's what I did. So I started designing my own. And, from the beginning, I wanted it to be manually controlled, mechanical unit, no electronics. I want it to be the diver to be in charge. And, I don't have a problem with electronic units. I think we all agree that with rebreather diving, the rule is to know your PO2. I'm just convinced that some units and some methods promote that better than others. And can you still get in trouble on an MCCR? Absolutely. You can be checked out and get into trouble. What an MCCR does that an ECCR doesn't do is it promotes good habit formation from day one. So it promotes those habits, and you continue to build those habits so that when you are in a stressful situation, task loading, you fall back onto those habits, and you always checking your PO2. So for me, it makes me feel better that I'm in control of the unit. So that was the impetus of the unit. Also wanted it to have a lot of long range. I wanted it to be able to go deep. I wanted at least an 8-pound scrubber. I wanted great work of breathing. I wanted back-mounted counter lungs. I wanted a radial scrubber, most efficient. So I just kind of took all those components from other units that I saw, and I combined them into a single unit, which is the Fathom.
Very nice. Very nice. Yeah, it sounds like a great machine.
So can you describe how the Fathom works, right? Some of the people watching aren't CCR divers. Some of them, I think a handful of them are, but it's a vacuum cleaner we wear on our back. It's got buttons and shit in it, and tanks and sorb and sensors. But how does it work, and how does it work differently than, say, an Inspiration or a Meg or one of the more common, better known machines?
Sure. I mean, all rebreathers share some common components. They all have counter lungs that you breathe in and out of. They're all going to use some way to scrub the CO2 out of your exhaled breath and recycle that. And they're all going to add oxygen in some way, because we're metabolizing oxygen. So we've got to add that back into the loop. And then, of course, there's diluent. So as we go deeper, we need to fill that space with some gas. Really, what the Fathom does a little differently, when I talk about an MCCR, is the way it adds oxygen. So an ECCR, electronic rebreather, is going to monitor your oxygen. It's going to use a computer to analyze that, and it's going to decide when it needs to add oxygen, and it's going to use a solenoid to do that. So it's going to do it without any diver input. A classic MCCR is typically used as an orifice, which is just a little hole. People call it a leaky valve. and it's just you're going to leak a little bit of oxygen constantly into the loop, and you're going to set it typically below the rate that you need it, below your metabolizing, somewhere 0.7 liters a minute that's kind of an average. 6.6 to 0.8 liters a minute is what we metabolize. So you're going to add that oxygen back in just through a little hole. What the Fathom does a little differently is we use a needle valve. So we can control the size of that hole. So it's sort of an adjustable, if you will.
So it's user adjustable.
Exactly.
As you're diving. Yeah.
Yeah. And so there's a lot of advantages to the adjustability. One is how you set it. We don't have to use the first stage IP pressure to set that flow. We can set our IP pressure to whatever we want, and we can use the needle valve to control the flow, which means I can jack up my IP pressure very high, and gives me a greater depth range. So that's the one drawback about an MCCR is typically they have a depth limitation, and that depth limitation is based on the IP pressure of your first stage. So the way we ship the Fathom, we ship it with an IP of 14 bar or 205 PSI. That gives you a 400-foot depth limit. Now you can turn it up to 20 bar or just under 400 PSI or 290 PSI. Sorry, that'll give you about a 600-foot depth limit.
Okay, great. Hey, we got another question here on the unit from Daniel. He wants to know what's the weight of a unit and how does it travel?
It travels pretty well. I believe without tanks and sorb, it weighs about 32 pounds. I'm able to put the whole unit in one of those Pelican air cases and get it at around 45 pounds, but under the 50-pound travel limit. So for me, I use one of those Pelican air cases. They're freaking expensive, but it's worth it. And it's just a check bag. I know a lot of people that like to do carry-ons, and that's certainly possible because it is a smaller unit.
Okay. Well, I actually have two questions about this because I mean it is Talkin Tek, and I am not familiar with the Fathom Rebreather, so I got two questions. Bender, I think you know what one of them is. So what we need to know is, I dive a Revo, so I know this is possible, but can we open a beer with your unit?
Can you open a beer?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Probably could.
Okay.
I'm not sure that I've tried.
Well, we're expecting a video from you of opening a beer with it. I think that needs to happen. My other question
that is on the Talkin Tek. Like everybody asks, what breather should they buy, right? And there's user serviceability, where it's made compared to where you are, who you're buying. There's a bunch of reasons why you would buy one machine or another. But on that list of like 5 key things that you need to know before you buy a rebreather is, can you open a beer with it?
Yes, that should be number one.
Okay.
Now, my next question is, so can you side mount this unit?
You can, but it's not designed.
Oh, for fuck's sake. Why the hell would you want to do that? Sorry.
A buddy of mine actually has converted it to a side mount unit, but no, it's not made to side mount.
Oh, that's good. That's good. So we'll welcome Fathom Rebreathers on the boats. That's basically what it comes down to.
So we got another boat diving. What a lot of people are doing are, putting onboard bailout. Either the 50s or 40s. If you wetsuit diving, the 40s work well up there. You guys 50s with the Lola valves works really well diving off a boat. That's how I did it We were talking earlier when I went to Presque Isle last summer. That's the way I did it. That was great. I loved it.
Well, that's great. We got one more. Where's it sold at? Just fucking contact Charlie. Find him on Facebook. He'll tell you how to buy one. That's how you do it.
FathomDive.com.
There you go. FathomDive.com. All right, let's go for it, Bender.
Are you ready for some hard questions? All right. We've been throwing you softballs for the first 25. Well, I'm going to say 25 minutes, but it's been about 16 because Bob fucked up and sent it to the. We were posting on his mom's Facebook page or some bullshit. So, are you ready for some really, really difficult knowledge review questions?
I'll give it a shot.
Okay. Because this show is considered the authority on technical diving, and we bring only the best resources and the best dive celebrities to come on, and we have to quiz them to make sure they got the stuff.
Yeah, I saw James working on this a couple weeks ago.
So we got the I fixed this. See right here, they spelt tech wrong, so I fixed that, and I also see the diver's trim is absolutely fucking perfect now. His bottles are even flying pretty good.
Guy's like on his head.
So we've got tech exercise 5.5 and question number 3. The most common mistake in mission planning is trying to accomplish blank, 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 blank in a single dive.
It's got to be video. Video is just there is no such thing as a smooth video dive. If there's video, you're screwed.
You're having a really good day going, and then your buddy shows up with a fucking video camera. You're just like,
yeah, you're done.
Fuck it. Yep.
There goes
okay.
the dive.
Yep.
Nice.
We're gonna have a real nice fucking day as some jerk off pulls a fucking GoPro out. Here we go.
Fucking GoPros.
All right, Bob.
Okay. So I'm going to ask you a question from some random scuba agency's open water quizzes. We're not going to say the agency because that will get us sued. So let's see. This is from quiz number 3. So I could prevent most surface emergencies by what? So diving only from boats, diving with an experienced buddy in a familiar place, using the best equipment made, which would be Fathom Rebreathers, and making myself float by reducing my physical effort. What do you think? Or do you have a better option?
Staying under. If you just stay underwater, you avoid all surface emergencies.
I mean, that seems to make sense.
But
that seems to make sense.
I'll go with floating.
Yeah, I mean, floating might do it.
I like floating.
I think that's good. I think buying the best equipment made. I mean, clearly that's what's going to save you.
You need 2 of them. You need 2 of them. What you need is like 2 Shearwaters, and then you show up with 2 Shearwaters for a course and no fucking analyzer. That is the ticket to success.
So it looks like Pat says we just dump our weights and shoot up. That's not a bad idea too. I mean, what the hell, right? What
Makes
could go
on
wrong?
The boat easier.
Yeah, when you're unconscious and we just drag you up. And Big T. If you weren't you'd be getting told tonight, but you won't. But diving side mount from a boat, no, that's going to cause some emergencies.
You only do that in Hammond, Indiana.
Yeah, Hammond, Indiana is where you do that at. With Captain Nicole, she likes
charters.com.
So Ben, there's some questions on here about like why the fuck you're wearing a life jacket.
You know what? No, I already answered her. She can fuck off because if she goes back to the beginning of the show, we already explained it.
See, I thought this was, you're gonna like keep it on for about 5 minutes, but you're gonna go the distance, aren't you?
He's following protocol.
I don't want to get the Rona, man. I don't want to get the Rona. Justin Trudeau said masks are out, life jackets are in, so I fucking blindly trust my elected leaders. So this is what we're doing now. This is the thing.
It
Right.
seems
Buy
like
Hallie
a good
Hansen stock. Shit's going up. So
idea. Holy fuck. Oh, Jesus. Well, and we got another answer. Shearwater and split fins will save you.
oh dude.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The Shearwater do the thinking, so I don't have to.
I mean,
Well, at
is
least
that the way to
it'll
go?
log the fuck up, right? So they'll know
They
what
will
happened.
log the fuck. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Rob Osborne can write a book about it then. So
Oh, there you go.
speaking of fuck off, well, I guess it's a little too early for that. So
No, we'll do that at the end. But I think well, I don't know. Should we do our 20 questions right now, or should we pause and have a shot?
it's never too early for a shot on Talkin Tek.
We'll get on the liquor. Let me go get my liquor.
I can get another beer if he's getting liquor.
Sorry, just fuck off. I'm gonna give a little shout out to a friend. I'm a fan of Liquorman's. That's the shit, right?
That's the creme de la creme. The creme de la creme.
Unofficial sponsor. But I just had a good friend of mine, Ashton. He moved off to Arkansas a couple months ago, and he just sent me up some Friday night red eye drink moonshine from Arkansas. So I have a dark and I have a clear. I can't do the clear because, well, clear liquor's for rich women on diets. So I'm gonna have myself some Friday night red eye dark from White River Distillery in Gassville, Arkansas. This should be interesting. We'll find out how it goes. But Ashton, thank you for the liquor. It was a nice surprise to show up in my mailbox. Been very pleased. Bender, what do you got?
Well, one thing I really miss, we missed the Ann Arbor show this year, and usually John Holland will bring me a mason jar of his finest.
Oh, fuck,
corn
you can run your
mash
car
distilled.
on that.
Dude, that shit, we ran out of fuel in the boat once, and if it weren't for fucking a jar of John's friggin' Go juice, you
Yep.
mix that about 30% Lake Huron water and the rest of it John's Go juice, that boat did 57 knots the whole way back. It was marvelous, but
I believe it.
we're completely out because this fucking border. So life jackets, we'll get this through, right? We don't have vaccines in Canada. We got fucking life jackets, so we're going to be fine. But yeah, just tonight, just the old dirty
Canadian. Yep.
Yeah, and like I said, guys, probably I was just bugging Joanna. She's going to send us over the files. We're going to get them over to the print shop. Within probably a month, we're going to have shirts available. We can only show you the front of the shirt because we're not allowed to show you the back of the shirt. Limited run. Fully
You're gonna
tech
want
swag.
You're going to want it. Oh, fuck. So, well, Bender fucked off, but he's having computer issues. Charlie, are you doing a shot with us or what?
I got another beer here.
Hey, you got another beer. Okay. Well, Bender, cheers, boys.
So I've got
Woo, fuck.
I've got a handful of books for Bender's Book Club. We got a few more close calls, which is now, as far as I know, out of print. A few more copies left. We've got Eric Pavelek's new book coming and some of his swag. So yeah, you guys got to join Bender's Book Club because you know how I am. I am a connoisseur of the finest literature in the world. And in fact, this week, some of my work was published, and I'm quite proud of that. We've had just a marvelous fucking week. It's published in the local paper, so you'll have to get that. The Independent, Petroleum Independent. So,
Fuck, I didn't know you could even read.
I can write. I got my finest red crayon out, and I fucking
Okay. That makes sense.
scribbled her down. So, Charlie, so you watched, did you skim a show? Did you actually watch a full show start to finish? Or
Watched you guys torture James the other night.
We didn't torture him. We like to fuck with James.
I think he enjoyed it.
He likes
he
it.
liked
He does. Well, we got the blue screen of death again from Ben. He's fucked. He's in Canada. They can't even get the internet right up there. But yeah, I'm glad you watched that episode, because if you would have watched the last episode, you probably wouldn't have came on. But yeah.
Who was on the last one?
Well, that was when we had Peter Sodas on.
Oh, the special guest.
Special guest, Peter Sodas. It was amazing. I'm shocked it's still available on social media, because we thought we were going to get kicked off of everything. That didn't happen.
I might have to go watch that.
So let's ask all our viewers here, since I don't know what's going on with Bender. We were just about to do our 20 questions. Why don't we have everybody watching chime in with some quick questions, and we'll ask Charlie those questions while we're waiting for Bender to get his shit sorted. So let's see if anybody's got any questions here. We might have Bender back. I don't know. He's back. Nobody answered. Nobody wrote in, so fuck off. Bender, read your 20 questions and get some good internet.
Okay, well, so the questions sort of ended up on the garage floor, and the cat got at him. So we might fuck up from about question 10, but we'll just kind of wing it. So you've seen the show, Charlie. It's speed round. You got to answer. There's no chicken bullshitting around. So here we go. Gas or diesel?
Gas.
Open circuit or closed?
Closed.
Salt or fresh?
Fresh.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Back mount or side mount?
Back mount.
Better captain, Captain Kirk or Captain Picard?
Oh, Picard.
Motherfucker.
Good.
Did you
Shut
know
up.
that-
Go on. No, shut up. Go on. Nobody fucking cares.
Did you know that Captain Kirk was Canadian?
Yeah, well.
All right, fuck off. Keep going.
Okay, dogs or cats?
Dogs.
Beer or wine?
Beer.
Favorite Great Lake?
Fuck, I don't know. Only been to one.
Canon or Nikon?
Don't care.
Better photographer, Jill or Beck?
Oh, Jesus Christ. I don't think I should answer that.
You got it, dude.
No, you got to answer it. Got to answer it.
Oh, wow. Jill.
No, I think
Rex
Becky's
or Cage?
watching tonight too.
Sorry.
Jill's too important to watch this fucking show. I don't blame her. So am I. Rex or Caves?
Caves. Of course.
Sausage or taco?
Taco.
Johnny Cash or Elton John?
Cash.
Top or bottom?
Top.
Power or sail?
Sail.
GUE or TDI?
I gotta say GUE, guys.
Sweet or salty?
Salty.
And rust or wood?
I like the wood.
I like the wood too. Well, so that's the first vote I think we've ever had for Jill. So that's
Yeah. We haven't had that before. Hey, you know what? I'm gonna pull up another question here. Pat had. He's asked this like twice on here, so I might as well ask you. How do you go from idea to production for things like the Fathom, the HUD, etc.? Do you fabricate it yourself?
So, well, that's a complicated question. So, for something like the HUD is mostly electronics, right? There's not a whole lot of mechanical involved with that. Although there's some, so I draw it up and send it to the CNC shop. Everything we get produced is CNC. And we have a CNC shop that does everything for us. We recently just bought our own CNC mill, but our plans are not to go into production for ourselves. That's mostly for prototyping, because it's a small CNC mill. So we're still learning that, and I'm hoping to use that a lot more for prototyping. But we'll still use our full-size CNC shop that we send everything to. I mean, those guys are just pros. As far as the electronics go, I mean, there's a lot of design that goes into something like the HUD, that you have to think about how you want it to work, the different menus, and design the electronics. For something like the rebreather, that doesn't have a lot of electronics, that's mostly drawing it out in CAD program and getting it made and seeing how it works, test diving it, prototyping it, and then ultimately going into production. So I'm not sure if that answers the question.
I think Pat hit on an interesting kind of concept, and in the technical diving world, in the rebreather world, you can have people that have brilliant ideas as far as techniques or their vision for what they want, but they don't necessarily have the aptitude or the technical background to accomplish what they want. I think I've seen it before. I think most of the shit Andrew Jiu-Jitsu spits out in his ideas may be interesting, but the execution, because he lacks the technical ability to produce it himself, so he's going to someone whose business is manufacturing or business is machining, but they don't have any background in diving. They end up with something like the fucking side mount manifold they produce.
Yeah, I mean,
it has to be a challenge. It has to be a challenge, Charlie, for you to convey your thoughts, your vision. I know you're a brilliant guy, but when it comes to electrical design, there's probably stuff a little above. I don't know. I'm just sort of guessing, but you got to lean on other people.
And I don't do a lot of the electrical design. In fact, Andy Pitkin has done most of the electrical design for the HUD, for the Pitkin controller, and even for the isolator and splitter within the Fathom head. So he's helped a lot with that kind of stuff. And he's, driven a product like the HUD, which is like like I said, largely electronic. He's really driven the design of that. But for both of us, we really build what we want to dive. So we kind of take that as a starting point. We look at, the diving that we're doing, and we kind of evaluate what's the need. So, in some ways it's selfish to start. We just build what we want. And we figure if we want it, then other people probably do too. We talk to some of the guys on the team, some of our buddies, get feedback from other divers. For example, the HUD, we put the HUD out, and a lot of people, well, not a lot, but a few said, hey, why don't you make a visual alarm, some type of alarm feature? So we did. And our thought was, well, we don't really want this thing going off all the time. We'll keep it at, like, if the HUD, your PO2 drops less than 0.2, it'll go off. Well, some people came to us and said, hey, we'd really like it to go off if your PO2 drops to below 0.4. Okay. So what we did was we made it user definable. We made a menu where you can turn it off completely, or you can set it at, the alarm's going to go off below 0.4, below 0.3, below 0.2, or not at all. And so that way, we incorporated feedback from people who want to buy and are using the equipment too.
All right. You know what? We got a few more questions here. We might as well just go through these real quick.
Chris Brown has a great one. I actually had a conversation with Chris a few months ago about the machine.
Yeah, he wants to know if you're changing anything major in the near future. Should somebody delay buying a unit until the upgrade? Well, let's find out. Are there units in stock you still need to sell before we answer this?
So I only build a unit when somebody puts down a deposit.
There you go.
I don't build a bunch of units and put them on the shelf. I've got components, yes, but we don't build it until somebody is ready to take delivery. We are constantly making improvements. So, it's one thing we sort of pride ourselves in is trying to stay current and relevant. But I would say, no, we don't have anything on the horizon. There probably won't be any big revelation at DEMA this year because we just made a shift, and we shifted where we gotten completely away from Fisher cables, and we've got a hardwired Shearwater now with the AK cable as an option. And the AK is the little wet pluggable, but we're really pushing the hardwired Shearwater and getting away from the Fisher completely. So that was a major change, and I don't see us making any. And then, of course, the new HUD. We got away from the Arctic 90 type HUD with the Shearwater electronics, and we've got our own HUD with our own electronics, and it's got a lot of interesting features now.
So are you? Before we move on, because this is a great for the rebreather nerds like myself. This is a great line where we're going down, and I think I saw when I test drove the machine with you a year ago. You're right at that. You might have had a prototype that had the AK connectors on it. You're sort of showing me some stuff that was coming down the pike, but something that is extremely frustrating with the machine that I'm diving is the obsolescence. So if someone bought a brand new machine that is the same model I'm diving in December of 2014, by March of 2015, the machine they had just spent $10,000 on is obsoleted and no longer supported by the manufacturer. Is there an upgrade path for generation 1, basically prototype or beta test units to a fully modern 2020, 2021 Fathom CCR?
Yes, because our changes have not been that radical. I mean, I think the unit that you're talking about, they produced it for, in all fairness, they produced it for a long time without making a change, and then they made a radical change. I don't see any kind of radical changes in the near future that are going to change. That are going to leave people out in the cold. I have had. In fact, some of the instructors on the unit, because they want to have the latest and greatest HUD. For example, Ken Sallet, he's an instructor on the unit, and he feels like he needs to have the latest and greatest. I've taken his head and I've gutted it and put the new HUD in it for him and a new Shearwater. He elected to have the AK cable rather than the hardwired. But he was able to upgrade to a new unit relatively easily.
So I guess to answer Chris's question, if he puts money down on a machine tomorrow, which he should, 5 years from now, when we don't have a crystal ball, we don't see what technology is coming down the pipeline, but 5 years from now, he should expect to have a relatively reasonable upgrade path that isn't that isn't in line with buying a completely new unit. Like the upgrade path for my machine is basically the cost of a new machine. Well, if I'm going to buy a new rebreather, maybe it's time to start talking about a different rebreather, someone that's not going to order.
I mean, none of these units are inexpensive, but one of the nice things about an MCCR is you don't have a lot of electronics in the head. So the electronics are in the handset or the HUD. You have some stuff in the head, but it's not a whole lot. So, you know, what you're talking about was a radical shift in an ECCR, which, yeah, I mean, the bulk of the expense of that unit was in the head.
And the handsets, are they, so you talk about the AK cable. Are we able to, the benchmark that I use for any piece of technical diving equipment is 1 week Northern Lake Superior diving. The machine needs to be robust enough or field serviceable enough to survive a week in Northern Lake Superior, where you have a 7-hour round trip drive to a scuba compressor. So we aren't, you know, most technical divers aren't afraid to spend money on spare parts that we typically never will use. But something like a handset failure, a cable failure, something like that, is this user changeable in the field, in the hotel room on a Tuesday night? Is this something we can do with the Fathom CCR?
Sure. I mean, that's one of the things that the capabilities that the AK cable gives you. It's a wet pluggable connector. So it does give you the capability. If you want to, you know, if you go to Truck Lagoon for 2 weeks, you're probably going to want to take a spare something. You're not going to sit out or dive open circuit, right? You went that far, you spent all that money, you want to be able to dive your unit. And to be honest, one of the reasons that I've kind of shifted and introduced the AK cables is some guys like JD, he asked me these questions when he was buying this unit, and we've made some changes since he's bought it. He wanted that ability to have a spare handset or to switch back and forth between a handset and a nerd, depending on the type of diving he was doing. And, I guess he likes to use a nerd in some types of environments and a handset in others. And the ability to switch back and forth is quite nice with the AK cables. And I'll tell you that Shearwater is trying to get away from the Fisher connectors, and they're going to be pushing those AK cables in the future. So they're not going away.
Great.
And it's another reason that I chose to go with the AK is the Shearwater is, I mean, clearly they dominate the market. It's what everybody wants is a Shearwater. So
yeah.
Whatever they're doing, you need to be able to offer. And
well, I think anybody with a rebreather nowadays, it's a Shearwater, or you're not going to sell any units. That's just what people want.
That's correct.
Because it works.
Because they're great.
Yeah.
I mean, they're good.
Yeah. Well, let's see. Bender is back. They really got to fix this fucking internet in Canada. They just don't know what they're doing up there.
It's fucking Justin Trudeau's fault.
Trudeau's fault. It's always Trudeau's fault.
Fucking right it is.
But you know, you're talking about being able to be self-sufficient when you're somewhere like in Lake Superior or wherever you are. Sort of comes back to the question that Big T asked as to why I developed the unit. And this was another major reason that I chose to go the MCCR path. I wanted a unit that was expedition capable. I've had it in central Mexico in sump diving where you have to haul it up a mountain, through a sump, up a waterfall, and dive in a new cave. And those are not the type of places where you can really tolerate electronic failures or any type of failures. And so, you know, down here in cave country, we frequently see people come down and they can't dive their unit for a week. It's not a safety issue. It just sucks because they just can't dive their unit because they have some electronic issue.
How about service? How about turnaround time for service on a machine? Somebody fills a machine up with water. It sits in a police impound locker for 2 or 3 months. How long? And then it ends up in your lap to be repaired. How long before it's back out the door?
I feel like I know a guy who went through that. Might be watching too.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot to service on the unit, to be honest. You throw out the cells, replace the O-rings, and put new cells in it and go diving.
So your unit is fully analog, no CAN bus. We're not taking something and creating a digital or some computer bullshit.
No, it's all,
Is there an isolation card? I can cut one wire in it or short out half of this Y and.
Yeah, so the splitter, there is a splitter board in there that is fully isolated.
Sweet.
And it's all potted in. So, you know, you take the cells out of the head, and which I do. I take the cells out and I throw it in my rinse bucket. The whole head goes in the rinse bin.
Oh, you sold me. I'm going to buy one whenever they open the border.
There you go. You're never going to get one then. They ain't never letting you fuckers back.
Did JD actually get his machine? I've had Tracy's offered to bring this thing back like 15 fucking times. He's been down. Like, did he get it yet? No.
No, he can't.
What a fucking guy. He got his license plate. This is Fathom CCR Ontario.
He could come and get it, but from what I understand, the quarantine when he comes back across is just crazy.
Fucking bullshit. You got to stay in a hotel where you get sexually assaulted. It's awesome.
Some people might
if you
go
wear
for
your
that.
life jackets, prevent sexual assault in quarantine hotels. Also proven by Health Canada.
There we go. So is it about that time, Bender?
I got a list, but I'm going to narrow it down to one guy. We had a good week.
Oh, I know who you're going for.
I got out of COVID jail, 14 days. A lot of people need to get told to fuck off in 14 days, but I'm gonna wait. Bob, who do you got this week?
Well, you know, I had a couple, but I gotta go, and I hate to say this, so I won't. A good friend of mine, we'll just call him CFM. His wife needs to fuck right off. I told her she was going on the show, and I tried to get her on the show. I was actually going to tell her on air. She wouldn't do it. But you know, I got a friend building a new house, and he's got these big giant vaulted ceilings. They're 18 feet tall, and she had this great idea to put tongue and groove boards up, whitewash them, and put them all up. And then they asked me to help. Well, then I saw the size of this, and this is not a 1 day, 2 day, 3 day project. This is a giant fucking room working on scaffolding. So CFM's wife, you can fuck right off. There we go. All right, Charlie, you got to have somebody who can fuck off.
You know, I'm still pretty irritated that we can't dive holders. So I was part of the dive holder. I was a dive holders guide, and you know, everything else flooded. I keep wishing we could go to dive holders. I don't think I have to say the name, but I'm pretty sure we all know who can fuck off.
Well, we had that guy lined up on the show.
Oh God.
But the council voted and told us that we can't. So we were told no, we couldn't do that because you know it probably wouldn't have went well for him. So there's that. All right, Bender, have at it.
So 2 months ago, we run a small mechanical shop. We're trying to grow our business. Jesse James did a special, and he talked about running your own business. He says it's people look from the outside in, and they just see you just counting your money, and it's just sunshine and your own boss and all this shit. He said what it really is more like is you're driving down a highway at 80 miles an hour, and you hit a fucking speed bump every 7 fucking feet, and it's totally true. And I wouldn't change it for the world, but 2 months ago, I shook a man's hand. It was a $500,000 deal. Looked him in the eye, put some papers in his hands, handed him a check, and shook his fucking hand. $500,000 deal. Well, he reneged on that $500,000. No, he didn't get didn't get my $500,000 that I don't have. I was gonna have to borrow that. But that aside, the money was there. We were gonna make it happen. he reneged on that deal on Wednesday night. So I know only one guy watching knows who Mark Penfound is. Mark Penfound, you can fuck right off.
There we go. There we go. That was good, guys.
Yeah. You shake a man's hand.
Yeah.
Good fucking show. We
It's a
still
good
alive?
show. We are still live. I'm pouring another beer, then I'm going to end it. So everybody watching can fuck off while I pour my beer.
Time for the after party.
Yeah, it looks like we're going to get our after party going. So to everybody who doesn't get to see that, too bad. Fuck off. And we will see you in probably, 2 weeks? We'll be back on?
A week or two, yeah. See if we can
Yeah,
find
a week or
something
two.
else.
Just watch all the Facebook shit. We'll advertise something, usually the day of. We're pretty good about that. So we'll see you guys later. Thank you.
Fully Tech swag or Talkin Tek swag.